Stride is a fundamental style in the development of jazz piano, and therefore a style that we must strive to at least get acquainted with. In this video, I want to show you how to tackle this style, how to start from the most basic concepts to the more advanced ones, so you can use it in your own interpretation of jazz standards and maybe even more recent styles. Hello, my name is Ricardo Uribe, and I'm here to share with you everything I know about piano, harmony, and improvisation. So stride piano has as its basic technique in the left hand the alternation between bass note and chord, or voicing. Bass note and voicing. That voicing could be as simple as just the shell, the third and the seventh of the chord. Could be a more complete chord or a more complex chord. But for starters, we can just take the shell into account when we play the chord. So usually in a 4/4 metric, in a 4/4 meter, we have bass, chord, bass, chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and so forth, right? So I'm just playing single note for the bass note and the shell for the chord. Bass notes go on 1 and 3, and chords, shells go on 2 and 4. So I'm going to use a blues form to show you the technique, and the blues form of course has the 1/7, the 4/7, and the 5/7 as its three main chords. And we could play the C7 like this, bass note here and chord here. Just very easy to play because it's less than an octave. You could play the bass note here, and you'll have to jump, and that's of course could be done, but I think this is a much easier technique, just playing it in this octave. But when we go to F7, we need to voice lead this third and seven to this third and seven of F. So we're gonna have to make a little leap here in order to voice lead this, right? So we're doing this, and here we jump to this F7, right? Back to C, and when we go to G7, this would be maybe the proper disposition of the notes, and the finger I'm using is 5 for the bass note and 2/1 for the voicing, right? So in C7 I'm doing the bass note with 4, the voicing with 2 and 1, but for F7 and for G7 the voicing, the fingering is 5, 2, 1, or G7 right here. And following the form and following this pattern would be like the first thing I would learn to do, so you get used to the feel of the stride thing and to the jumping here in the wider range voicing or bass and voicing patterns. Now the following step, or the next step, would be to alternate the bass notes, having the root on beat 1 but the fifth on beat 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. This gives more variety to the accompaniment, to the left hand. You could also, instead of the fifth, use the third of the chord or even other notes, right? For example, like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And the idea is to give a sense of melody to the bass note instead of just jumping to the fifth. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Now, the next step could be to add some melodic lines in the bass note, replacing the fourth beat. Instead of playing the chord, playing another bass note. I'll show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see? Instead of playing a chord on beat 4, I played a melody note, or a bass note rather, that creates a little melody in the bass note, like this. And that creates some kind of rest to the usual pattern of bass and chord, bass and chord, and that's part of the style as well. So the form using that technique could sound like this. In this case I did like 2 chromatic notes that lead into the next bass note, and that gives me like the same type of effect. And these little walking bass lines are also part of the style, and in this case there were 4 beats that I was playing just the bass note. 1, 2, 3, 4 for 2 bars, and then back to the usual pattern of the stride. Now the next step would be to instead of playing single notes in your left hand, you could play octaves in order to get a fuller sound. Sometimes you don't have to play octaves every time. Something like that. Now the next step is to, instead of playing octaves, playing tenths. This gives a much fuller sound and is of course part of what gives the left hand more body, more a bigger foundation, so you can do like pretty much anything on your right hand and it's gonna sound full. So you could use this 10th over the root of the chord, let's say we're on C7, over the 3rd or over the 5th, and all those 10ths work really well and make that bass note sound much fuller. So we could do like this. Here. Here, for example, I could do this walk up in tenths. Here. In this case, I didn't do, I did a 10th here, but a 7th here in order for this note to resolve. Right? So it requires some practice, but it sounds really good when you get it together. Now the final trick that I love to do, that I learned from Art Tatum, of course, is to play a little chromatic approach in your thumb, your left hand thumb, in order to create a little line. You see that? So I'm doing this 10th of this 7th, let's say we're in the turnaround, but I precede this note by, and maybe I continue that line doing the 7th of the G7 preceded by this note. Right? Of course, For smaller hands, this is not very easy to do, but you could roll the notes. If you put the pedal in the proper place, it's gonna sound pretty good. So as you notice, I wasn't playing the notes simultaneously, I was rolling them, but the effect is actually as good as the other one. So putting that left hand together with the right hand that plays an improvisation using basically the blues scales, the minor blues scale or the major blues scale, could sound like this. Let me know if these tips were helpful to you, and if you want to take lessons with me, I'll be very happy to help you. My contact information will be in the description of the video. I'm looking forward to see you in another video.